The sun rose gently over the majestic city of London, casting a soft, golden hue upon its historic landmarks. Among the early morning bustle of the city, the grandeur of Buckingham Palace stood tall and regal, its gates silently witnessing the daily rhythm of tourists, citizens, and officials. Amid this grand backdrop, a delicate figure moved with quiet determination. Her name was Lily Matthews, 13-year-old girl whose presence at the palace courtyard would soon capture more than just passing glances. Lily had arrived early that morning, arms full of carefully bundled watercolors, each piece lovingly crafted during long hospital stays and moments stolen from fatigue. The paintings depicted vibrant cityscapes, blooming gardens, and glowing sunsets, scenes of joy and peace she often imagined while enduring the cold, sterile world of chemotherapy. To many, these were just artistic expressions, but to Lily, they were fragments of her soul, painted with hope and resilience. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below to let me know which country you're watching from. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. Her mission was as clear as the sky above her, to raise enough money to continue her cancer treatments. Medical bills had mounted alarmingly fast, and her single mother, already stretched thin by endless shifts and mounting debts, couldn't do it alone. So Lily decided to help the only way she knew how, through her art. She believed in the power of beauty to connect hearts, and she trusted that someone, somewhere, would see not just the paintings, but the story behind them. As the city stirred awake, Lily set up her small display beside the palace's outer wall. Each painting was propped against the stone with careful attention, their price tags modest, almost shy, not reflecting the hours and emotion poured into them. Her blue dress, though slightly too big now due to her weight loss, was clean and chosen with love. A scarf, brightly colored and knotted with care, covered her head, signaling the battle she fought daily. Most people passed without a second glance. A few looked on with faint curiosity, some whispered quietly, and others, with discomfort or disdain, turned away. Lily had grown used to the sidelong glances and the pitiful smiles. Her strength came from within, from the rhythm of brush to canvas, from the courage to show up despite it all. Children sometimes stopped to look, their eyes wide with innocent admiration. One little boy tugged at his mother's hand and asked, "Why is that girl selling pictures?" The mother, clearly caught off guard, answered softly, "She's being very brave, sweetie. Sometimes people need to do hard things to help themselves." Lily heard it all and kept her focus, adjusting a crooked frame and offering a soft smile to those who lingered. With each passing minute, the courtyard grew busier. The changing of the guard ceremony drew a crowd, their attention mostly focused on the spectacle to come. Yet Lily stood firm, a small island of color and quiet amidst the gathering noise. She did not call out to passers-by. She did not beg or plea. Her art, she believed, would speak for itself. Guard Michael Thompson stood at his post with the rigid discipline that came from years of service. Clad in the iconic red tunic and bearskin hat, he embodied the image of stoic tradition. But behind his unmoving exterior was a heart shaped by sacrifice, duty, and quiet empathy. Having served 2 tours in Afghanistan before joining the Royal Guard, Thompson had seen humanity at its most raw. The palace, with its ceremonial splendor, was a world apart from war zones, yet human courage, he had learned, was not limited to the battlefield. From his position, Thompson could see nearly everything. His role demanded vigilance. Even without motion. He noticed the early morning tourists, the camera flashes, the subtle ebb and flow of the crowd. But what caught his eye that day was not the gathering of spectators nor the glint of gold on the palace gates. It was a girl, young, fragile, and remarkably poised, arranging small paintings with the care of someone crafting a legacy. Though trained to avoid distractions, Thompson found his gaze returning to her again and again. The grace in her movements, the way she straightened her scarf and stood tall despite her frailty, it stirred something deep within him. He had seen that look before, the look of a soldier preparing for a mission, masking pain with purpose. He watched quietly as Lily interacted with those around her. Her smiles were genuine, not forced. When a child asked her about a painting, she knelt with quiet dignity to explain. When tourists dismissed her or muttered insensitive comments, she didn't flinch. Her strength wasn't loud, but it was profound. It resonated with Thompson more deeply than any ceremonial gunfire or royal pageantry ever had. Memories of his wife, Sarah, came unbidden. Sarah, an art teacher, had battled breast cancer with the same quiet bravery. She, too, had painted during her treatments, cherry blossoms, sunrises, anything that reminded her of renewal. Watching Lily, Thompson felt that same energy, the raw honesty of someone fighting not just for life, but for beauty within it. He noticed Lily growing more tired as the sun climbed higher. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her display. She occasionally leaned against the stone wall for balance, her face still a portrait of calm but her body betraying its struggle. Thompson's hands remained at his sides, unmoving, but his heart reached out across the space between them. He had been trained to guard royalty, to uphold centuries of protocol and tradition. But as he watched Lily bravely stand her ground amid whispers and stares, he wondered what it truly meant to serve. Was it not also his duty to recognize courage where it stood? To protect those who couldn't protect themselves, no matter how small or quiet their battles. As the morning crowd continued to gather, a touch of gentleness appeared in the form of an elderly couple. They were dressed with classic British refinement. The woman wore a floral dress and a matching sun hat, while the man sported wire-rimmed glasses and a cane that he used more out of habit than necessity. Their pace was unhurried. Their eyes kind and observant, they approached Lily's modest display with genuine curiosity. The woman leaned closer, studying a painting of the Thames at dawn. "My word," she murmured, awe in her voice. "You've captured the morning mist perfectly." Her husband followed, adjusting his glasses as he examined the delicate brushwork. "Remarkable detail," he added. "You've quite a talent, young lady. How long have you been painting?" Lily, though tired, lit up at the interest. 3 years, sir," she replied. "I started when I was 10, just before." Her voice trailed off, her hand unconsciously touching her scarf. "The nurses let me set up an easel during treatments. It helped me feel normal." The woman smiled, her eyes glistening. "Well, your paintings are a gift, dear. We'll take this one." She reached into her purse, pulling out crisp bills with the kind of grace only age and experience can carry. Her husband gently folded the selected painting, careful not to smudge the signature in the corner. Before they left, the woman leaned in and gently squeezed Lily's hand. "Keep painting, sweetheart. The world needs more beauty. Especially from hearts as brave as yours." Lily watched them go, her heart warmed by the simple act of kindness. It wasn't just the money. It was the validation, the acknowledgement that her work, her story, mattered. For a moment, the pain faded into the background. She smiled, her spirits lifted, unaware that this interaction was only the beginning of a day she would never forget, and from across the courtyard, Guard Thompson saw it all, the kindness, the impact, the transformation. And his resolve quietly deepened. Following the heartwarming exchange with the elderly couple, the atmosphere around Lily's display began to shift again. A group of teenagers, clad in the telltale signs of wealth, designer backpacks, brand-name shoes, and casually expensive attitudes, drifted into view. They laughed among themselves, their voices loud and careless, until one pointed toward Lily's display. "Is this some kind of charity art sale?" The boy sneered, his voice mocking. The others snickered, casting glances that felt like stones thrown at Lily's already fragile confidence. "Guess everyone needs a hobby, even sick kids." The words stung, not because they were new, but because they still had the power to wound. Lily didn't respond. She straightened a painting instead, pretending not to hear as one of the girls gestured vaguely at her art. "Ah, bless her. It's kind of sad, really." Lily's face remained composed, but inside her spirit trembled. These moments were the hardest, not the treatments, not the physical pain, but the piercing judgment of those who refused to understand. She reminded herself of her purpose. She had endured too much to let a few cruel words undo her, but then, just as the laughter threatened to overwhelm the dignity of her space, a voice rang out clearly, "Excuse me." A woman with 2 young children stepped forward, positioning herself protectively between Lily and the group. "Could you tell me about this one?" she asked Lily, pointing to a vibrant piece of the palace gardens. The kindness in her voice was like a balm. Lily's lips parted in surprise, then curved into a grateful smile as she described her technique, the way she captured sunlight filtering through the trees. Her children leaned in, asking innocent questions about color and shape, helping to drown out the fading snickers of the teenagers. "We'll take it," the mother said warmly. "It'll be perfect for Sophie's room." Sophie nodded eagerly. Lily carefully wrapped the painting, handing it over with the same grace she had shown all morning. The teenagers drifted away, their smirks replaced by a kind of silent unease. They had been rendered invisible, outshined by a mother's quiet bravery and a child's genuine appreciation. The crowd continued to swell, their attention split between the palace guards and Lily's quiet resilience. Snippets of conversation floated around her like petals and thorns. "Poor dear. So young," said one voice, "beautiful work though." "Such talent," murmured another. "I can't imagine what her family's going through," a woman whispered to her friend. Then came the harsher tones. "Should someone be letting her do this?" a passerby asked loudly, not bothering to lower her voice. Lily kept her posture poised, hands steadying the edges of her work. But the strain was growing. Sweat beaded at her temple beneath the scarf, her body fighting the heat as well as the weight of judgment. A man in a suit paused, reached for his wallet, then let it fall back into his pocket as his phone rang. "Important call," he muttered and walked away without eye contact. Still, Lily smiled. Still, she greeted everyone with the same warmth. But her hands trembled more now, her knees ached, and her throat was dry. Thompson noticed it all. His eyes, though locked forward, registered every faltering moment. Every time Lily leaned on the wall, every effort to hide her exhaustion. Then came the breaking point. "It's a bit manipulative, isn't it?" a man in a blazer remarked, his voice tinged with contempt. "Playing on people's emotions like that." Lily's shoulders dipped slightly. Her fingers clutched a paintbrush she kept for luck, as if grounding herself in the very tool that had given her purpose. She looked at her paintings. 5 left now. "Just 5. 5 more," she whispered. "Then I can make this month's payment." But the remarks continued, the passive pity, the awkward avoidance. A couple approached, looked interested, then turned away quickly. "It'd feel weird hanging it," the woman said. "You'd think about. You know." By midday, the courtyard had grown hot. The sun blazed down mercilessly, and Lily's fatigue deepened. She fumbled for her water bottle, hands unsteady, a few drops spilling onto her dress. "Why is that girl's head wrapped up?" a child asked aloud. "Hush," the mother whispered, rushing past. Lily heard. She heard everything. But she squared her shoulders once more, fighting tears, willing her legs to hold steady, and that was the moment Thompson made his decision. With emotion so out of place it shocked the crowd, he stepped forward. His boots clicked against the stone, and gasps erupted. Phones raised. Murmurs spread. A royal guard had broken formation. He marched directly to Lily's stand, his movements precise. Lily stared, wide-eyed, panic flashing in her face. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "I'll pack up." "Please don't." "At ease," Thompson said gently, kneeling beside her display. "I'm not here to send you away." The crowd fell silent, watching in awe. "These are remarkable," he said, pointing to her art. "Especially this one." He tapped a painting of the palace at sunset. "You've captured something here. Something real." Lily's fear melted into wonder. "Your wife's an artist." She is, Thompson nodded. She'd love your work. And then Lily spoke. She told him about the nurses who gave her napkins to draw on. About sketching dreams when her body could barely move. About her mother's struggle. And about how every painting was a victory. The crowd listened. And as Lily's voice grew stronger, so did the impact of her story, and then, one by one, buyers returned, not just curious, but moved. Teenagers who once mocked her pushed forward, asking prices, holding out bills. A girl hugged Lily. A businessman handed her his card, and all the while, Thompson stood by her side, a living shield of honor and empathy, breaking every rule with quiet dignity. As Guard Thompson stood protectively by Lily's side, the shift in the crowd was palpable. The scorn and suspicion that had once hung in the air like a fog began to dissipate, replaced by a growing sense of awe and remorse. People who had earlier scoffed or passed by with averted eyes now lingered, visibly moved. The teenagers who had mocked Lily were the first to approach. Their expressions were different now, sober, ashamed. One of the boys stepped forward, pulling a wallet from his designer jacket. "I'll take this one," he said, pointing to a painting of the Tower Bridge under moonlight. His voice lacked the usual bravado, and his companions silently followed, selecting pieces and asking quiet questions. Lily was stunned. Her hands trembled as she accepted their money, but her smile was warm. "Thank you," she whispered to each of them, and for once, their phones stayed in their pockets. Other spectators, many of whom had once spoken in hushed, judgmental tones, now stepped up with newfound resolve. A woman in designer sunglasses, who had earlier criticized Lily, now gushed with compliments, holding up a painting for a selfie as if she had always been a supporter. "My mom's an art collector." Another girl said loudly, "She'd love these." A young mother with 2 children came forward next. "We've been saving for ice cream," her daughter said proudly, clutching a small fistful of coins. Lily knelt down, smiled, and selected a smaller piece, a painting of pigeons in flight. "Let's make a special price," she said softly. The atmosphere had changed completely. The crowd no longer looked at Lily with pity or judgment, but with admiration. They spoke to her with respect, asked about her process, and praised her courage. One woman even asked for her contact details to share with an arts foundation. As the flurry of transactions slowed, only one painting remained. It was a delicate scene of cherry blossoms along the Thames, a personal favorite that Lily had painted on one of her hardest days. She reached out and gently touched its frame, whispering, "Just one left." Thompson stepped forward again, his eyes focused on the artwork. "My wife painted something just like this," he said, his voice tinged with memory. "During her hardest treatments." He paused, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a carefully folded envelope. "I was saving this for her birthday next week," he continued. "But I think she'd agree this is a better use." He handed the envelope to Lily, who stared at it, wide-eyed. Thank you, but you're not just selling art," he said quietly. "You're showing the world what courage looks like." With great care, Thompson wrapped the painting himself, his military precision lending reverence to the moment. Then he handed Lily a business card. "Call tomorrow. My wife teaches at the Royal College of Art. We'll arrange everything, scholarships, supplies, mentorship. You have a gift. Let's nurture it." Lily clutched the card to her chest. Around her, the remaining onlookers erupted into applause. Several stepped forward with extra bills, pressing them into her hands. "For your next canvas," said one. "For your future," said another. With her paintings gone and her heart full, Lily packed up her display for the day. She paused to take it all in, the people smiling at her, the weight of the crowd's approval, the tangible support in her backpack and her soul. Before leaving, she turned to Thompson and gave him a salute, not the performative kind tourists mimicked, but a genuine, heartfelt gesture of respect. He returned it, equally sincere. As Lily walked away toward her appointment, the palace courtyard buzzed with quiet reverence. People who had once whispered now talked openly about what they had witnessed. "That girl," one woman said, wrapping a painting for her daughter. "She's real courage." The teenagers stood by the gate, phones forgotten in their hands. One of the girls wiped her eyes, saying nothing. Tomorrow, the world would return to its routines. But for many who had stood in that courtyard, something had changed. They had seen how a young girl, armed only with her art and her strength, could command a crowd and awaken hearts, and guard Thompson. He knew this day would be one he would never forget. He had broken protocol not out of rebellion, but out of duty, the highest kind of duty, to protect and honor bravery in its purest form. The following day dawned crisp and bright. At the Royal College of Art, Sarah Thompson checked her email as usual, a warm mug of tea in her hand. But one message caught her attention, a subject line that read, "From Lily Matthews." Curious, she clicked and began to read. The message was humble, heartfelt, and filled with gratitude. Lily introduced herself, explained how she had met her husband, and thanked them both for their generosity and encouragement. Sarah read it slowly, tears building as she imagined the girl her husband had described. She replied immediately, inviting Lily to visit the college for a private tour and a meeting with faculty. By the end of the week, arrangements were in place for Lily to begin attending weekend art workshops with the college's youth program. Donations from those who had witnessed her display at the palace helped cover transportation, supplies, and even a new set of brushes she picked out with Thompson's help. News of Lily's story spread beyond the palace gates. Local papers ran headlines about the brave girl and the guard who broke protocol. Social media was filled with photos and clips from that unforgettable day. Strangers sent words of encouragement. Artists offered mentorship. Cancer survivors reached out with their stories, moved by Lily's strength and artistry. For Lily, the journey had only begun. With every class she attended, every sketch she made, she grew, not only as an artist, but as a young woman discovering her place in the world. Her illness didn't disappear, but now it was no longer the center of her identity. Her art, her voice, was, months later, at a charity art exhibition held at the college. Lily's work was displayed alongside that of advanced students. One piece in particular drew a crowd, a new version of the cherry blossom painting, this one more vivid, more alive. The title was simple, "Spring Follows Winter." Guard Thompson and his wife were in attendance. They stood beside Lily as she gave a short, brave speech about hope, gratitude, and what it meant to be seen. Cameras flashed, but Lily didn't flinch. She smiled, not just with her lips but with her whole being, and as applause echoed through the gallery, Lily understood something profound. The day she stood outside Buckingham Palace, she had not just been selling art, she had been planting seeds. Seeds of empathy, kindness, and change. A girl with a paintbrush had touched the heart of a soldier, softened a skeptical crowd, and begun building a future no one could have foreseen. Her legacy had begun, not in galleries or grand museums, but in the small moments of truth shared between strangers, and in that legacy, courage would continue to bloom. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like and share it. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring videos. Thanks again and see you in the next one.